This is not a PRS. This is not a PRS.
Hello, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hi, I'm Andre, and in today's video I want to talk about my third custom built guitar. If you've seen my previous two guitars, this here is the last of my custom built guitars. And you might wonder, well, this looks a lot like just a normal PRS guitar. It isn't. This is not a PRS guitar. This is an Atlas guitar from Thailand that I've had since 2008, and I want to talk a little bit about how I got it, also the specs, and as in my previous videos, demonstrate a few tones and so forth, and hopefully at the end make you a little bit interested in these guitars, because they are not produced anymore, at least from what I understand. You can still find them in the wild. I've seen a few here and there over the past few years, and so forth. So that's the content of this video. Hopefully you stick around, so let's go. So where does this story with this guitar begin? And if you see, again, like I mentioned here earlier, I was again in the mid 2000s, 6, 7, 8, browsing a lot of guitar forums, Gemside, Kramer, and what else? I think also the PRS forum, because when I did my PhD, which I did in Germany, I live in Denmark. I'm originally Danish and Algerian. I have Danish and French citizenship, but that's another story. I did my PhD at a university town called Gießen, which is about 60 kilometers north of Frankfurt. And one of my co-workers, who was also a PhD student, he built amps in his spare time. He had a small company where he would every weekend go out to concert and provide amps and such, and set up for local gigs and so forth. So he was making a little bit extra money on the side that way, and he had been doing that for a few years. So he was able to get tickets to what is called the Musikmesse, which is the European version of the NAMM show, as in the US, where musical suppliers show off their latest gear to retailers and so forth. But there is one day that's for the normal audience, the public. So in 2004, I think I went for the first time just on the Saturday, which was open to the public, and I went by the PRS booth and I saw their guitars. Especially at that time, the most prominent guitars they had were, of course, their Custom 24 with their beautiful figured maple tops and everything. So I became enamored with one. Also, saying I would like to have maybe a guitar at some point, but again, they are pricey, and PRSs are pricey still today. I know there's now the Core series and so forth, but if you want a Custom 24 USA made, you are looking at $5,000 or $6,000 or euros. If you're not getting, of course, there's the one with the dragon inlay I've made over the years, which is what, 10 grand or whatever it is. So these are expensive guitars. So and I went again in 2005 and 6 to the Musikmesse again, And this time I went on the days that were for the retailers because my friend could get tickets because he was looking at speakers he wanted to buy. And the funny story with that is that he was interested in buying speakers directly from Bang & Olufsen, which is a very prominent hi-fi brand here in Denmark and all over the world. But the funny thing, he asked him, can I buy like a couple of your speakers because they are high quality, because he wanted to use them in one of his amps he built. And they said, sure, you just have to buy 1,000 of them. And he said, well, I only need 3 or 2, I think he needed. They weren't interested in selling him that. So that's a funny side note. But again, the Musikmesse is a great show. A lot of cool guitars, a lot of cool gear. You see some artists, of course. I remember I saw all 3 years Matthias Eklund play at Laney. I think saw Paul Gilbert once at Laney when he still was prominently a Laney amp user. Who else did I see? I know I'm going a bit off target, but just thinking. Stu Ham at the Fender booth. 1 year, what I think 2004, I saw Billy, the bass player from Mr. Big, Billy Sheenan. There, what's the name? Just brain fart, and that he was just terrible. No, his playing was awesome as he always is, but his bass sounded so terrible. Really thin, really. That's, you remember clearly how he stuck out, how terrible he sounded on his bass sounded at that demonstration. But again, it's a trade show where you play through whatever they have or whatever, so you don't always agree, but that was really bad sounding. So I finished my PhD in May of 2006 in Germany, and I decided to go back home. And if you were on those forums back at the time, there you saw here and there people posting to a website about Atlas guitars, which were again a luthier in Thailand called Rinton, or Rinton Music was the company name, that made handmade guitars. That's at least what they were selling it under, but they were mostly making copies of, at that time, mostly of PRS. So if you looked at the website, their website is now defunct. I couldn't find anything in the Wayback Machine when I looked prior to making this video. But and they look really cool, and they were clear copies, as you can see, the headstock and so forth. But people were all over the forums always getting, has anyone tried them or tried to buy one and so forth? But people were hesitant because, again, it's Thailand. It's not a place where you think quality instruments are made usually. But the story behind Rinton, at least that I remember, is that Rinton was a luthier who had made guitars for, at that time, for over 30 years at least at that point. And there were some pictures on the website of some of the guitars he built. He built like a 12-string tapping guitar, like you see Stanley Jordan play and so forth. He built a lot of weird instruments. And they had built copies of Ibanez's and all, but they were again they were kind of like Ibanez back in the 70s and all those other Japanese brands back in the 70s that were making Fender Strat copies, Gibson copies and everything, but they were good quality. So I got the idea to thinking after I had my other custom guitars done, I wanted another guitar, and I thought I wanted something a little more traditional with a more traditional bridge, but I didn't want like a Les Paul or anything like that. I wanted something with a bridge, but again, the PRS and theirs are the typical 6-screw tremolos, and I never liked those. I know that everyone says that the 6-screw tremolo on a really original PRS is very good because it's hardened steel and everything. But I thought, you know what? I had the money at that point. I thought, you know what? I'm gonna take my chance here. So I contacted them through email there in beginning of 2008 and asked them whether they did lefties, and they did. They all said, well, we can do lefties of all our models basically. But I asked them, are you willing to do a custom version of your guitars? I think this model here I have is called the Sapphire, I think. So, and they so yeah, if you, and I asked specifically if I sent you the parts, meaning the trem and the tuners, because I think the original guitar on the side was again without locking tuners. Mine has locking tuners. Are you willing to put that on instead? I said, sure. If you send us it, we are willing to install that instead. So I thought, okay, that's cool. So I decided, you know what, I'm gonna take a chance. Third 2 times it's been good, so the third time is the charm, as they say. So I sent them the money again, money order, or sent them bank transfer again. I think I paid 1,500 euros for it, all in all. With the so I ordered first a Hipshot tremolo, and the reason why I chose a Hipshot tremolo is because one of the downsides of a knife edge tremolo system is that over time the knife edge will become dull. It's simply from the vibrating. So because then you can of course sharpen the knife edge again, and you're okay, more or less. But at some point, the material will be so worn down that you will have to replace the tremolo. This is a ball bearing tremolo system, where I will show in the close-ups later, where you have 2 pins, and this the post is resting on the pins. So you have this round surface that you are vibrating around. And the theoretical idea is that surface doesn't get worn down in the same way, so this should work forever. So that's why I chose the Hipshot Tremolo Plus. They had a lefty version of it, so that was cool. And for tuners, I chose, what do you call them now? Planet Waves logging tuners. And the reason I like those are some of the best tuners in the world in terms of the cleanliness. Now, when you install the string, you just push through, and when you lock it and then you start to tighten the string, it immediately cuts off the string when a certain amount of tightness is on the string. So it's very cleanly installed. And I'm a stickler for how I hate when I see people who have installed a guitar with fresh string and they don't cut the strings. Michael Schenker is one. You always see him with his now Gibsons. Of course, he's gone back to Gibson now with his Flying V's, that he fresh strings never cuts them. And it just, for me, is my OCD basically. Oh, please cut those. But that's that. So those are the 2 main changes to the guitar. They did everything else is basically what they offered. And I chose the green color here with a very nice quilted maple top. It isn't perfectly book matched, but it's still very nice. So the turnaround for this guitar, I think, was less than 6 months. I think it was less than 6 months. They were very quick, I remember. And they were very communicative, I also remember. And I remember when it was done, they called me before they shipped it out and everything. And then it got shipped out. And I think I asked them also, they usually said they ship in, I asked them again, this is the wonderful thing with customer service, when you're dealing with Asia, is that they still believe that the customer is always right, or what you would call it. So I asked them, are you willing, if I pay extra again for the shipping, that I could get it in 2 or 3 days? So I think I got it FedExed or UPS, the fastest what they could. So I got it 3 days later. And this is more or less what arrived. I will talk a little bit later again about I've made some changes to the guitar. But this is the guitar. And it's been in my possession again 18 years now. And again, it's a wonderful instrument. So that's the basic story on how I got it. So a little more. So let's talk a little about the specs of the guitar itself. So the body. So the specs are. It's I think it's Indonesian mahogany. So this is real mahogany, Indonesian. Both the neck and the body. It's a set-in neck like the PRSs, with a quilted. I think this is, I don't know if this is 4A or 3A, but you can see the figuring is pretty nice, and this one it pops really nice with the color. And then you have this natural binding around it. Dual humbuckers, which are their vintage style wound humbuckers. Everything on this guitar is not CNC, this is handmade. Again, tuners are the Planet Wave locking tuners. Bridge is the Hipshot bridge. Freeway switch, volume, 2 tones, and you can split the coils on each of them. And there's this button, which I'll talk about a little bit later, and a Graphtec nut. And on the back, this has something to do with that button, and plate for the trem, and of course electronics. I'll take some shots of without the covers on. But that's the basic guitar. Fingerboard or fretboard is ebony, and the fret wire, I remember, is medium jumbo. And you can see it has the standard birds inlay as a real PRS I have. But again, this is not real PRS. But again, that's that. So how was the guitar when I got it? In a sense, I was very happy with the guitar, but it had its issues. And one of the issues was it was buzzing heavily all over when I put 9 to 42s on it. I simply couldn't adjust it so I could get it the action low, or and not have buzzing all over the place. I ended up taking it to one of the luthiers in town to get him to set it up. And the only solution was to put heavier strings on it. So right now, and this is how I've had it for years, this has 11 to 52s, and it's tuned in drop C. So everything is down a whole step, but the E string, the heavy string, is down 2 steps. And then it works fine. In standard tuning with the neck simply doesn't. It was just a mess. Two things that I was disappointed by. One of those things was at the 17th fret, there was a cut in one of the frets. So when I vibrate the string, the G string around here on the 17th or 19th fret, I can't remember, one of those 2 frets here, you could see that there was a direct cut in the fret, so the string wouldn't catch, but you could feel it, especially if you pushed down hard. I don't know if this was an accident when they did the fret work, that they accidentally cut the fret, or if, because I remember when I opened it, that the arm was just laying loosely around in the case. I bought it with a real case, so maybe it had cut it. But the big downside was, at least in terms of quality, was the nut wasn't very well cut. It was really poorly cut. Like really amateurs. That was big. It worked fine, but I just looked at it, thought, this is like somebody who has never really cut a nut before. And again, I can't remember when I talked to them. I think the original luthier, Rinton, had retired, and then his apprentices had taken over. I don't know what it was, but that was one of the big things that really was badly done on the guitar. And then I don't know if you can see it. Maybe when I do the close-ups, that the paint work, the green, at least here, isn't perfect everywhere. You can see it could have used in some places an extra coat of green, because you can see the natural maple color below. Doesn't mean anything, but you would think for a $1,400 Euro guitar, $1,500, whatever I paid again, it would be a little more quality control. But again, that's just aesthetics, doesn't mean playability. The pickups are, again, they're okay. I'm surprised that they can handle everything. You can play blues, the most heavy stuff. Really, I can really crank the gain without them squealing or anything. I thought because they were originally designed to be more vintage styles, and that it wouldn't work for the heavier stuff, but they do. They are, maybe some would say, a bit muddy, but and when you split the coils, you can hear the single coil sound, but it's not that present as it can be on some guitars when you split coils. But again, changing pickups is the solution to that. But I like it the way. And the only thing I would say is that the freeway switch is a bit cheap feeling compared to a normal freeway switch like on a Gibson or something like this, but it has never failed me, so I'm surprised by that. And again, you can split the coils. This one splits the bridge, and this one here splits the neck. And then you can mix and match, of course, where the middle are I think it's the 2 inner coils here, or maybe both of them. I think it's the 2 inner coils, and then it's just, this is the neck, and then of course this is the bridge, and then a very volume. So, but all in all, it's a beautiful guitar, and And the headstock, of course, is a big contention. This is just a PRS headstock copied. So in terms of legality, it's not legal. I know they changed the headstock a few years later, because when you see these guitars in the wild, you see them with a in where they have cut in like a swerve or something of some kind. That if I can find a picture, I'll show it here. But they changed the headstock again because they started gaining tractions around again 2000 because all the forums always mentioned them here, there, and which again was the reason why I finally there, because I like PRS guitars. They are good looking guitars, but again, they are very, very pricey if you go for the USA made ones. I know now they have the core ones that are made in Indonesia, and supposedly they are, in terms of price and quality, some of the best stuff you can get. PRS has really gone out of the way to make sure that quality is good in their mid-tier range, or whatever you would call priced models, that the quality is matches there in their Indonesian factory, which is just the Cortec factory in Indonesia where they may have them made. So that's the guitar. So since I got it, what changes have I made to this guitar? Well, again, I mentioned the cut in the frets. So in around 2017, 18, 16, 17, 18 again, I had the frets completely redone, and now they are medium jumbo stainless steel frets on. And this was, again, if you've seen my previous video, this was Hanson guitars again that did that work. They did very nice work. And then I asked them to, can you scallop the four top frets on the guitar, like 24, 23, 22, and 21 are now scalloped. This ended up, of course, that the inlays that were here couldn't survive because you had to cut it down, which was fine. It doesn't mean anything. So originally it still had inlays, bird inlays up onto the 24 fret. Because I wanted that little bit of access, because I remember, again, another side story, when I was at the Musikmesse in 2004 for the first time, I went by the Fender booth, and they had Yngwie's signature model on display. Again, just the right-handed one. I don't think they ever made a lefty model of his guitar. And I tried it just for fun. And if you never played a scalloped guitar, it is very difficult to get a hang of, because you really figure out how much do I press down on the strings to get a sound out of the instrument. And of course, with a scallop guitar, you don't have the fretboard anymore. You really only have the frets, really. So if you press down too hard, everything will sound out of tune. So you have to learn how to play a lot more softly. And that took me like 5-10 minutes just to get somewhat of playing the guitar. So just to, okay, now I'm not completely out of tune, but still it was a very different feeling, especially on the lower frets when you don't have any fretboard below your fingers. So that was kind of an interesting feeling, and that's why I thought, let me at least try on one of my guitars while I have it getting it serviced, that maybe just have some of the frets scalloped. So I had the upper fret scalloped, like most, for example, Steve Vai's Gem, the four upper frets on his guitar, at least the Japanese made ones, have scalloped frets. And I think Kikuloeri's signature model, I think the USA model has scallop threads from 15 and upward, or is it 12 and upward? But the scalloping is a bit different because you can scallop like this, and if you see Richie Blackmore's, his scallop is like a dive that gets more and more pronounced as you go up the fretboard. That's his way of scalloping on his guitar, particularly his his Strat you see with the black pickups he has played over the years. So that's one. The frets got fixed with the cut, and brand new Graphtec nut got installed that was properly cut, and also cut for those strings, because again the original again came with 9 to 42, and then when you put 11s on, you basically need to recut the nut in order it doesn't stick. So that was done also. And then finally this button here. And this button here is simply a kill switch. I wanted a kill switch because I had at that point seen Buckethead, who his Gibson, he has that big red kill switch button. I think on one of his Gibsons, before they got stolen, he had two here. He has one here and one down here. And also John 5 has a kill switch, and it's a fun thing to play with. This one, the reason for this one here is that if I turn it on, I don't think you can see it, a blue light appears. So that's a little bit of a light show, so to speak. But that's basically the upgrades or changes that I've made on the guitar. Everything else is basically stock on the guitar, and it's has a fresh pack of strings on from the Dario. Seemingly the Dario isn't the most popular brand right now on the internet, but they still make great strings, no matter if they make AI music or not, if you believe or not believe what they say. But yeah, that's the story about this guitar, and it's a cool thing. So if you ever see those Atlas guitars on eBay, they are worth checking out if you're looking for a PRS that isn't a PRS or whatever you would call it. I think the prices on, again, I think they are in the $300-400, maybe even lower, so forth. Again, I know the resale value on this won't be like $1,000, not even close, simply because, again, of the brand and so forth. But yeah, that's the story of this guitar. So, and now for some close-ups. You can see, once you get close, you can see that the quilted maple is really pronounced very close. And you can also see that it's not book matched, but it still looks good. And you can see, it's very clear now, even to me here, how much the gold has worn off on the trem, and even on one of the tuners here. Same thing on the pickups, a little bit of wear and tear, but again, 18-year-old guitar, and you can see the scalloping and the new nut that's been cut. And then, of course, the headstock, as you can see, it's very close to a PRS headstock. Actually, I think when it's a lefty, I think the horns are opposite. Maybe I can't remember right now. So this is maybe even a reverse headstock when it comes to PRS headstocks, when you're talking about left-handed models. And You can see on the back, locking tuners. That's the only thing about those Planet Wave locking tuners, that the lock is made of plastic. That's the only thing that makes them feel a bit cheap. Everything else feels fine in terms of tuning everything, but that is the cheapest one, because Charlotte locking tuners, that's usually made of metal as well. It's just a fun thing. So again, very nice inlays of the birds. And that's that. And the strap, as you can see here, that's an original PRS strap that I bought again from eBay. Paid, again, way too much money for it. Those are expenses as well. But I wanted it to feel somewhat, what do you call it, authentic, even though it isn't. So yeah, that's that. So let me show you the back. And here are the back shots, as they say. Normal jack input. And as you can see, the 9-volt battery is of course for the light part of the kill switch. And there's shielding on it and shielding paint. And here's the trem. And as you can see, I think you can read it, it says Rinton Music Products. So that's one of their own claws they put on. I had forgotten that. I thought they used the claw that came with it. Not that it matters. But yeah, that's how it looks on the back. You can see the wiring is somewhat pretty cleanly done. But yeah, that's that. And the neck again. And just to show you, if I go very close to the post, you should see those two pins that are connecting to the post of the trem system. Let's see on there that this is not a knife edge based system, but a ball bearing, like I mentioned before, and this is how it roughly looks. I actually don't know. I know Hipshot now makes tremolos for Kiesel on their guitars, the tremolo guitars. I don't know if it's the same design as this they use, but this is what I have on mine, as you can see. So now I'll see you back after some bit of demonstration of the tones, both again clean and dirty, and that's that. So now we come to the demonstration section. I'm doing something a little bit different today. I guess, as you can see, I'm sitting at my computer and I have headphones on because I decided just to shake it up a little bit to demonstrate the clean sounds, at least with plugins, specifically NAMM plugins. I will explain what I'm using in a little bit, just to shake it up. But when it comes to the dirty sounds, I will showcase the pickups with my amp mic'd up and a couple of the pedals I have. So that's that. So what you will be hearing in terms of plugins on the clean sounds is I've been futzing around with the NAMM plugins for the last few days and got quite enamored with them. So what I've done, I've built a free amp, basically sound, what you would call it, stereo sound system, or not system, but is that what you will hear is a dumble in the middle, and then pan to the left and right are two Fender to Trin super reverb amps, if I remember correctly, just to give more space. They are very low in the mix, and that's that. There's also a little bit of reverb and delay on the dumble, along with some chorus again to give it a little more volume and space. So let's start. So here is the bridge pickup, and that sounds like this. And now for the both pickups together in the middle position, you get and now we go to the neck position. So go back to the bridge, and now I will split the pickup by doing the push-pull on the tone, lower tone, and that will give it a little more chime. You get that slight stratty the tone now. You can hear there is a little more chime now. So if I now go to the middle position, this will then be the split pickup with the normal neck pickup, not split, and you get again a little more. So if I now split the neck pickup as well, it gets a slightly bit brighter, and it's very subtle, but it's there. And finally, if I then go directly to the neck pickup, then you get quite. Yeah, this is here where you really hear the single coilness of the pickup. That's the neck. You get really that. And that's that. So now for the star of the show, let's turn this on. I hope, let's see if the camera picks it up. And there's light. I just put a fresh battery in the kill switch. So hopefully the camera picks it up. Should see some blue right around here. Hope so. And so if I just do this, you can hear there's a bit of electrical noise. One of the connectors is bad. I need to check that at some point. And but you can hear and you can hear that there's just kill switch. Again, there's some electrical noise, sadly. I need to figure out what it is. But that's that. That's the clean sounds. And now I will switch over to the dirty sounds again. Mic'd up amp with an SM57 into my audio interface. And I'll see you in a bit. And we're back again. Now For the distorted tones, I have now mic'd up my amp with the SM57. Should see a cable going to my Focusrite audio interface. And the mic placement is close to the center of the upper left speaker of the amp, a little bit off to the side. And in the effects loop, again, just some delay and some reverb. And the distortion is coming from the heavy impress pedal, but it's on the heavy, or the heaviest channel, or whatever the second channel is called. So, and the mids are scooped a little bit. So this is how it sounds. We start again with the bridge pickup, and this is what we get. And now for the middle position, you get this sound. You can hear that the pickups here are not really suited for this heavy tone, but I wanted to demonstrate just to see show you the range of the pickups here. But you can see, and things are starting to become a little bit muffled. And now, if we go to the bridge position, you get this. And now I'm going to show when you split them. And here you really can't hear it anymore. And this is the thing with pickups. And what a lot of people, at least in my opinion, misunderstand, especially when people criticize YouTubers like Glenn Frigga when he says, well, pickups really don't matter. What you need to focus on if you want to change your tone is the speaker of your amp or your cabinet at the end, and that's where the tone change really happens, because that's the biggest part of the tone. And he is always talking from a position of heavy distorted tones, and not from light distorted or clean tones. And because there, of course, yeah, here pickups matter a little bit more, or they play a bigger part in the tone. Same thing maybe with the wood, as Paul Reed Smith talks ad nauseum about. But at least with Glenn Frigga, when he talks about, and all the critique of him when he talks about these things, is that he's always talking from heavy distorted tones, and you can really hear it here. So now the bridge pickup is split, and you can't. There's again, the change is very slightly. It's less than in the clean part, demonstration part I showed you. And again here, if we now go to the middle position again, bridge is split and the neck is not. You get again. And now just for the neck pickup. And let's just try to split the neck pickup up. Let's get some little sound on. And then finally, the middle position again with both pickups split to just get the full range of everything. And here we go. And just for the hell of it, let's try again. And the little light show. And hopefully you can see it. And just for fun of it, let's try And that's that. That's the story of my last of my custom guitars. I have one more guitar I'm gonna show, but that's not really a custom guitar and it wasn't built for me, but I'm still gonna talk about it here in a, maybe not the next video, maybe the next one, but I will talk about it because I think it's interesting to talk about. So thank you for listening, if you stayed around so much, and hope to see you in the next one. Bye.